Well, hello, and welcome back to Ravenna Railfan 4070. It is my honor to welcome you to the 2023 Ravenna Central HO Scale Fleet Preview. Let's start down here with our steam engines. This is Southern 1004, a Bachmann 460 with DCC and sound. Now, this engine has a special purpose. In October, it will not be Southern 1004. I ordered some spare parts from Bachmann, and it will become Northeastern 23, the Phantom engine from my short story, The Phantom Line of the Northeastern, which I put out on YouTube a couple years ago. Next to it is another Southern engine. This is a 280. Number 630, the famous Excursion engine. We have several Excursion locomotives in our fleet. Next could have been one, and sadly wasn't. This is Grand Trunk Western 5629, a 462. Like the other two engines we've already seen, this is a Bachmann model as well. 5629 was one of 4 locomotives owned by a man named Richard Jenkins. He sold 3 of the 4 off, and we'll get to one of those in a minute. That's unfortunately, the 5629 was scrapped and no longer survives today. Next we have Western Maryland 1102. This is a Russian decapod and was the first of Bachmann's models to be equipped with the TCS WOW Sound special decoders, specifically for the easy command controls. So she quite literally has all the bells and whistles. Next is a newer addition to the fleet. This is Maryland and Pennsylvania number 6, a Bachmann Spectrum 440. I have 2 more of those 440s in the fleet that are away getting sound. They are straight DCC at the moment, and one is getting a wiring issue fixed. But when those return, I will have 3 of these engines on my layout. Next is an engine you've probably all seen here on the channel, Pennsylvania 3233. This is a Alco 260. And we have our 2 060 side tank little switching engines here. Midwest Corey 12, which I know you've all seen before. And the newest addition to the fleet, which just came in yesterday actually, is 2780, the Pennsylvania version. Getting on into the larger engines, this is one of our BLIs. This is Pennsylvania 1159. It's a heavy L1 Mikado. This has DCC sound, and it also has smoke as well. Broadway on several of their engines have real coal in the tender, and this one actually has real coal. So that's quite something. When it stopped, it also has a lighted cab. Next is an engine you've seen recently, and we know it can go quite fast. That is my Polar Express 284 with Bluetooth control from Lionel. Finally, the 2 stars of the fleet here. This is Reading 2100, a Class T1 484. The real 2100 is one of 4 T1s that survives today. And I've worked around the real engine up in Cleveland at the Midwest Railway Preservation Society, the owners of our next engine. Another Broadway Limited. This is the 3rd of 3 that I will show you, is Grand Trunk Western 4070, except in this case, it's lettered Cuyahoga Valley Line, but it is the channel's namesake and another steam engine I have worked on as part of a restoration crew. So 2100 and 4070 bring us to our local engines. The next couple engines are going to be, they are DC, unlike most of my fleet, but I am planning to get DCC and sound put into them at some point this year. First up, we have Cuyahoga Valley C420 number 365. and Cuyahoga Valley C424, number 4241. I've gotten to work around these diesels as well during my seasonal job at Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad. These two engines were kind of childhood favorites of mine. I've spent a lot of time around the Cuyahoga Valley. They are both rare Atlas models. I think Atlas did only a couple of runs of these, if that, and I managed to pick both of those up. Next, continuing with the local theme, is the Wheeling and Lake Erie 6352 SD40-2. Seen this in Ravenna and on the greater Wheeling system many times. And another Wheeling engine. This is the 304, a GP40-3, which was involved in a wreck a couple years ago in Akron when a remote control failed during remote control switching. It crashed into the 106, and both engines were subsequently scrapped. The real 304 obviously then does not exist. However, it was replaced by another GP40-3, which became ABC 4005, which is a common engine that I catch in real life all the time for the channel. 304 is also DC, but I plan to upgrade it. 6352 does have sound like most of the engines. Next, moving on to our Norfolk Southern fleet. First up is GP38-2, number 5555, commonly known as Fives. This was a graduation present from my aunt, and it's been one of the longest serving diesels in the fleet. Next are the two heritage units, NS8114, which is the original Norfolk Southern heritage unit, an ES44AC, and NS1069, the Virginian, which is an SD70 ACE, commonly known as an ACE. 8114 is the second run of these Bachmann heritage units and is equipped with ditch lights in addition to sound. 1069s are just decorations. She is one of the first run locomotives and doesn't have them. Then we have GP40-2 3057, which I commonly pair up with the 5555. And finally, U30C number 8000, an XNNW. This is made by Atlas. Now, I said finally, so you might be wondering where the SD40-2 is. 3430, the NS SD40 you might have seen running around the layout, is up for sale, and I already have her promised to a potential buyer. So she will not be part of the fleet preview because I don't expect her to be here very long. Moving on, as we all know, I'm a sucker for Alcos. Here is New York Central System with a P&L sticker, 9762. It's an S4, a common switching engine on the layout. It and the Reading 603, which we'll get to in just a moment, are common switching engines for the Whitechapel Railroad Museum on the Ravenna Central. Next is a Erie Lackawanna F82. This engine does not have numbers yet, but it would have been a local locomotive. I also have a B unit for it as well. I was just too lazy to pull it out. So that will get numbered and be running passenger excursions shortly. And the biggest of the Alcos is PA number 190, nickel plate. This is meant to model Doyle McCormick's prototypical nickel plate 190, which never was nickel plate in the first place. It was actually an old Santa Fe engine that he restored and put in nickel plate to match ones he saw growing up. Okay, on to some of our smaller EMDs. Next is Pennsylvania GP35 2252. 2252, like the Western Maryland 1102, is one of Bachmann's newer locomotives with the new TCS wow sound decoders, and it is quite a good runner. So if you can pick up a TCS GP35, they come highly, highly recommended. Next is a partially weathered Atlas GP7. This is Reading 603. She's probably the quietest of any of my engines that have DCC and sound. So she's great for running at night when I don't want to wake anyone up. But she is one of my switching units and looks like she's done quite a bit of work with that light weathering. Santa Fe 275 was a Christmas present from a friend of mine a number of years ago, and tends to pull the holiday trains, although it's not the red and silver or bonnet paint, which would look fairly Christmassy. It does have Santa in the name, so that's my typical joke there. On to the engines in the back row. We have some unlettered units. This is a Walthers NW2. I love the safety striping on the front of that. This is going to become Ravenna Central 437. As you might have heard me announce, this year I'm going to officially launch a project to custom letter and decal several locomotives up to actually be lettered Ravenna Central for our fantasy railroad. Behind her are Atlas B40-8s. These are the Black Hornet paint schemes, meaning they were old CSX units. Old NS units that were sold to CSX. Not very many of them were around originally, but I didn't get them because they're rare. I got them because they're basically unlettered other than numbers. These will be Ravenna Central units as well. 5966 will wear the company logo, which you might have seen me post on my community page. And the 5974 will be our Ravenna Central Balloon Affair Heritage unit. Finally, going back to the NS collection just for a moment, is the Norfolk Southern business train engines. This is a Walthers set. You can get the A and B of 270 and 275, and 271 is available separately. I would like to find the 276 to complete the set of 4 of what was called the Executive Fs that pulled the office car special until they were sold a while back. 270 and 275 went to Reading Blue Mountain Northern, and the 271 and 276 went south to another railroad down that way. A couple of engines that are beautiful models that I love to run but don't come out very often. This is the old Bachmann Transcon set that they did a limited number of a couple years back. You have Central Pacific number 60, the Jupiter, and Union Pacific 119. They are 440 American types, and they are much older than the Maryland and Pennsylvania 6, which is meant to be the new Richmond Modern 440. Now, there is one other diesel that I have not included because it is not running at the moment. That is a RS11 I purchased from Rapido. It is my only Rapido engine so far, and I would have loved to have it in the preview, but it ran a couple days, and unfortunately I ran into some problems with it. So it is on its way back to Rapido to be fixed. There's also 4 other steam locomotives that are not here at the current time. We talked about the Maryland and Pennsylvania number 6. I have 2 440s that I picked up for a good deal from the Berea train show. One has a minor wiring issue to be fixed. They are both straight DCC, and I will convert them to have sound like the 6 does. They are numbers 229 and 603, which I realize there is a numbering conflict with the Reading 603, so I will have to change 603's number when it is back. Nickel Plate Road 765 had a wire come out of the decoder, so I'm getting that fixed. Don't worry, I did not get rid of her. It's one of my excursion engines that I'm proud to have and would have been with the local stuff as it visits here once a year. But like I said, I don't have it right now. It's getting repaired. Finally, another engine that is not here, the last to mention, is a Bachmann Spectrum 80-ton 3-truck Shay. That will become West Branch Lumber Company, number 59, and will serve with the Ravenna Central units to help customize the Ravenna Central with their own engines. So the Ravenna Central engines will do the main job, and then there will be a forest scene and a lumber mill, which will be worked by the Shay, and I'd like to find a small, older diesel for that as well. But with that being said, that is the 2023 Ravenna Central fleet, minus a couple that aren't here, but I have mentioned those, so we're gonna show you guys the engines again one more time, and we're gonna wrap this up. Please excuse the shakiness of the camera, but I thought this was the best way to do things. Back row here. And finally, the older steam engines. Well, hope you've enjoyed. Normally, I do have the Goodyear train out here to wish everybody a Happy New Year. That has gone to be part of the Eastern Pacific fleet that my buddy Miles Spear owns. So be sure to check out videos of it on his channel. And there just really wasn't room this year with all these engines. We've added quite a few, and the fleet has become far more impressive. So we're not going to have a running train around the other engines this year. But hope you've enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, and look forward to seeing these guys all run in the coming year of 2023. Happy New Year, everyone.